call to order, and then we'll have our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Our invocation is going to be led by Mr. McDonald, and I would ask Fire Chief Judd, would you mind leading the Pledge of Allegiance? Would that be all right? Okay. And I'll ask you all to please stand. Ms. Walker, would you call the roll, please?
Honorable Mayor Fowler.
Here.
Honorable Councilman Bilbrey.
Here.
Honorable Councilman Graves.
Here.
Honorable Councilwoman Hawkins.
Yes.
Honorable Vice Mayor Hill.
All right. As always, the first items on the agenda are to consider the approval of the agenda, and secondly, to approve the minutes of the council meeting. I'll ask you to please look at your agenda and your minutes, and if there's any corrections or additions that we need to make to the minutes, please let me know. Ms. Walker, the only thing that I saw was we just need to make sure that we get everybody down as voting for or against each motion as it's made, irregardless of who made it or who seconded it. We just need to be consistent with that. If you'd look to that, I'd appreciate it. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I make the motion.
Mr. Bilbrey, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hawkins? Now, Ms. Walker?
Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey.
Yes.
Honorable Graves.
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
All right. And item number 2, consider approval of the minutes of the council meeting held on February the 13th. I've pointed out what I have found. If there's anything anybody else has, or I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I make the motion. Approve.
Mr. Bilbrey, now is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hawkins? All right, Ms. Walker?
Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey.
Yes.
Honorable Graves.
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
Under old business, we have consider approval to award the dog park fence bid to blank in the amount of blank. We tabled that from last month, as I recall. And I don't know, do you want to speak to that, Director Phipps?
Yeah, sure. The last month, we had accepted several bids at the request of council to look into a chain link fenced area at the new city park at 461 West Main Street. We took bids for two different sizes of parks, from 5 foot tall chain link fence enclosures, 100 by 100 to 200 by 200, to give some options. We had bids return, and last month we talked about those. We had 3 different bidders come in, and the price ranges for that ranged anywhere from $29,000 up to $48,000. With those exorbitant costs, council had indicated they were interested in doing that work in-house, and were interested in getting some pricing on what material costs would be, and that's what's brought us here tonight. So I've collected a couple of different examples. There's tons of places that we can order this material from. One of the places I checked was Lowe's, and I based it on a 200 by 200 foot enclosure, separated in 2 halves, one for large dogs, one for small dogs, a 5 foot tall fence. And to keep the cost low, we've priced that with a material in a residential grade. Lowe's of Cookeville sells all that material in a residential grade fencing, and has everything that we need. There's some online options where we can order commercial grade or residential. So we've thrown some prices together for that excuse me, that range from about $11,700 to around the $12,500 mark. So a significant price difference for the same size park. So tonight is just to readdress that, to see if council wants to move forward with purchasing just the materials and doing the work in-house with our staff to put some size of enclosure at that new city park, whether we're interested in a particular size or an overall budget for it, and do as big of an enclosure as we can for a set budget.
So with the 200 by 200, that's based on the big dogs and the small dogs sharing a fence, correct?
Yes, the total enclosure would be 200 feet wide by 200 feet long.
Right.
That area would be split down the middle for 100 by 200 and 100 by 200 foot enclosure, one for small, one for large. Each with their own walk gate entrances.
In the bid package that we got previously, there was the one that says exceptions. Is that the one that the 200 by 200? Where we had bids of 15,000 up to 27,000, and the second column it says exceptions, and went from 24,000 to 48,000.
I don't have that entire packet from last month with me. I just had the totals.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the city manager recalls. There was something with that bid exception on that second bidder, and I don't recall the number.
There is. So on the bid exceptions, the West 10 and WD Services were both for 200 by 200, but the Ed Bruce alternate one was a size down. It was a 100 by 200, which made each section 100 by 100. So his quote on exceptions a little off. But now West 10 at $29,445 is a 200 by 200.
That's the 5 foot. Is that residential?
That's commercial grade.
That's commercial.
That's commercial grade fencing. Mr. Bruce called after he had submitted his bid and realized his was different, and said you'd have to add about 3,000 to 4,000 to his price to get a 200 by 200. There with West 10 on the 200 by 200. Commercial grade, based on the numbers Mr. Phipps and I put together, is running about $14 a linear foot. Residential grade is running just around 10 or just under $10 a linear foot. So it costs you an extra $4 a linear foot for commercial grade. And if you figure the West 10 bid for a 200 by 200, he's charging you total fence material and installation about $21 a linear foot for the product and installing it. So he's making about $7 a linear foot to put it in.
Do we have the capability of putting it in ourselves?
Yes, sir.
We do.
Yes, sir.
Well, what will that do to, I know it's getting to be mowing season and we're getting busy with parks. So I want to ask you, do we really have the capability to, I mean, all things are possible, but what is probable? Can we do that with a department of 3?
It'll tax us. The good thing is Director Bradshaw and his guys are more than willing anytime that we need help to help us. And I imagine that'll be a joint effort. It'll have to be, 'cause we will have to mow. That has started up. The dog parks, there's a lot of people that want that. I think it's something that we need. We'll do whatever we need to do to make it happen.
I think if we decided to do it ourselves, I think we have to realize that it'll take some time. That's okay. We can do it at our pace. And I think we'd save a lot of money by doing it that way. That's my feelings anyhow.
If you want to do it ourselves, we need to reject all of these bids, and I would ask that you do one of two things. Either give us a dollar amount for total that you want us to put into the fencing and materials, or give us a footage of what you want size-wise to do that. And also realize this is just the fencing. This isn't any appurtenances or extra things or things for dogs to jump on or anything like that. It's just an unleashing area for them to run free and kind of play and stuff. So.
Well, the bids were that way also, weren't they?
They are. So all of this is that's
they didn't
the way
have entrance gates or anything like that.
They had entrance gates, yeah. They had all the gates and the 2 4-foot gates for the unleashing areas.
Guess I'm still a little bit confused. Most dog parks have double gates to begin with. If you get it done commercially, they'll have a gate, an entrance path. It maybe makes a U or something, and
Right.
a second gate. That wasn't in the bids, was it?
Yes.
It was in the bids.
Yeah, there's an unleashing area in the bids, so they will enter a fenced-in section that's smaller through a 4-foot gate, unleash, and then there's another 4-foot gate to get into the main arena, so to speak. So each of these, and the way we figured it, even with these prices for just fencing, we have put unleashing areas in, so that there's a secondary area where you catch your dog and leash it, and you're not just trying to catch it in that big wide open area. So. City attorney says the max we can spend on materials is $15,000, because if we go over that, we have to bid it.
Well, I think we need one. I'm like Roy. I think there is a demand for a dog park. It'd be nice to be able to afford a great big one, but 200 by 200 is not a bad start. We could always add to it. I'm going to make a motion that we purchase the material. I think we need to go with residential and put a material cost of, I'm going to say 15,000, and go with the 200 by 200, split down the middle.
I agree.
I think residential is adequate.
5 foot height. Yes,
I
sir.
think you need a 5-foot fence.
I agree.
I think residential is adequate myself. And I think from the cost numbers you looked up and spent time gathering, the 15,000 for materials is probably realistic. So I will make that motion. I need anything else in it?
We're rejecting all bids that we tabled.
Rejecting all the bids, yes.
Right. I think Councilman Graves has made the motion to reject all prior bids and award or at least increase this dog park fence bid to $15,000 with us doing the installation work ourselves. If I've misstated that, Mr. Graves, make sure I'm right.
That's correct.
All right. There's been a motion made by Mr. Graves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bilbrey. Any discussion, any questions? If not, I'll ask Ms. Walker to call the roll.
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
All right. Under new business, item number 4 is to consider approval to suspend the reading of ordinances 707-24 and 708-24. Again, those will be discussed in detail coming up as the next item. We just do this for expediency's sake, and we don't take the time to read the ordinances in their entire effect at this time. So I will entertain a motion that we approve suspending the reading of those ordinances at this time.
I make the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hawkins. All right. Ms. Walker?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
All right. As promised, we have ordinance 707-24. This is here for second and final reading. However, there will be a portion where there is a public hearing before there is a vote on ordinance 707-24. For those of you who haven't been following this saga, 707-24 is to uh, for council the additional for oversight, I suppose you could say, of the city administrator. The only two department heads that are appointed by the council is the city clerk and the city administrator. Those are the only two. However, with 707-24, that would give the council a vote on whether to approve the city administrator's suggestion. Whatever he or she brings forward, then we have, at an open meeting, we must vote yes or no on that person. I suppose, well, I won't do any supposing. I'll just say that that's what it's about, and that it would change the personnel rules and regulations to allow the city council to approve or ratify or not ratify the city administrator's appointment. We've had lengthy discussions on this, and I don't know if Mr. Rader chooses to rehash this at this time, but I do know that you have advised that this is not the course of action that the council needs to take. Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am, and we went through that last time. I'm glad to answer any questions that anybody on the council has, but I think we've pretty well covered that topic.
You got your button pushed down there. I'm having trouble.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right.
All right, now that we know what Ordinance 707-24 is, I will suspend the council meeting, and we will move into the public hearing section of our meeting, where it's concerning anyone that has any comments, questions about 707-24. Okay, Director Bradshaw.
Alrighty. Put my glasses on here. I'm up here today. Opinion, this ordinance has a lot to do with 707-24. In my opinion, this ordinance has a lot to do with me and how I was hired as the new director of Public Works. I've been with the city of Allgood for 7 years now. I was initially hired in as an entry-level position where I worked in most of the different divisions of Public Works. It was at this time that Mr. Morrison and the previous Public Works Director offered me the opportunity to be the understudy of the Public Works Director. I accepted the offer and began learning all I could about the city, including studying maps, sewer and water lines, and anything and everything to be prepared for when the time came for me to step up. This time came quicker than expected, but I was ready to take on the responsibilities and jumped right in as interim director, ensuring there was no interruptions in the city or Public Works Department. Unfortunately, once I stepped into interim position, one disgruntled employee would make things difficult, declaring he would not report to me. And in his own words, he would work with me, but not for me. I believe through this disgruntled employee and his family and friends on the commission is how we got to this proposed ordinance. Although I've been training for the position for a couple years and had already been running the department as interim director for 6 months, I was told I would have to go through the hiring process. I applied just as any other candidate and I scored as one of the top applicants. It was Mr. Morrison's recommendation to the council that I be awarded the position of Director of Public Works. And when Mr. Morrison was in the process of this transition, the council decided they wanted to decide who got the position. It was clear the commission didn't agree with Mr. Morrison's selection, who he felt was most qualified to run the department and who was best fit for this position. At the council meeting for the commission to vote for approval as me as Public Works Director, 3 commissioners voted against me. And Ms. Hawkins decided not to vote since she had family members involved. This family member she was referring to was her son-in-law, Tony Hogan, the disgruntled employee that didn't want to report to me. I'm not sure how her voting for the Public Works Director is a conflict since Mr. Hogan wasn't even a candidate for the position. I can only conclude that there were personal vendettas or political agendas that were playing out at my expense. It was made clear that night by the votes that I was not the first choice by Mr. Graves and Mr. Bilbrey. Once the council realized through the city attorney that they didn't have power to make hiring decisions for the Public Works Director, a special meeting was held which Mr. Morrison, the city administrator, with all his training and knowledge, needed to hire a Public Works Director, work under him, and with his team, awarded me the Public Works Director. I believe shortly after that, Councilmember Graves, Bilbrey, and Hawkins began the process in ensuring that they can control who is hired as department heads, allowing for their family members and friends to be hired regardless whether or not they are the best candidate for the position. I don't think it's a coincidence that Mr. Hogan filed a grievance against the city administrator, Mr. Morrison, wasting city money. After the investigation was complete, a new ordinance was proposed that essentially strips Mr. Morrison's power and puts it right into the hands of you 3. The timing of this grievance and proposed ordinance to strip Mr. Morrison's power is just too coincidental in my book. If you want to make a new ordinance, make one that is beneficial to all the citizens of the city and not just a select few. How about an ordinance that doesn't allow to run for a seat on the commission or a city board that has family members that work for the city or who is a current city employee?
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. Okay, we know this is Mr. Doug Fowler.
Look, I'd like to know, have you guys even looked into like a limited civil service board to hire?
We have not.
You have not, okay. Have any of you 3 worked in personnel before? No answer, okay, that's fine. Excuse me? Have any of these 3 worked in personnel before? I guess by your non-answer means no. Let's see where we are. So I'd like to know how many times you chase your tail around the room until you get somebody that you like or a family member. And I think it's not really a good situation to have somebody say in an open meeting, we shouldn't hire women or we shouldn't hire military or guardsmen. There's laws against that. That's all I got to say.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm here to speak in favor of the ordinance. There are 4 people up there who were elected by the people of the city to run the city. Okay? They weren't elected to be yes men and to rubber stamp. They were elected to help oversee the running of the city. I want the people who I have control over, because if I don't like what any of the 4 of them do, I can vote against them. It's simple. You go to the polls, you vote against. It's a shame no more people. We don't get a whole lot of votes. As big as our city is, it's a shame no more people can go out to vote. So if you've got a problem with what these four do, you need to get up and you need to run for council and you need to do it. You need to change who's there. As long as they are elected, they're the ones who should be deciding. They should have the final decision over Keith, over all the department heads. They should be the ones deciding because they're the ones who we elect. I was appalled at the last meeting to find out that our city doesn't have an employee handbook. How can we not have an employee handbook after all these years? It protects both the city and the employee. It's not there. Should be there. Job descriptions. We've got to find a way to get those done because, again, that protects the employee and it protects the city. We don't have them. We've got to get ourselves a little bit more professional, and I guess that's where I will leave it.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to address two things about this ordinance that were brought up at the last meeting. First, I want to address Mr. Graves and his comment about Mr. Judd possibly not being hired due to the fact that he didn't score as high on the scoring system for not having an education versus experience. There is a simple solution to that. The scoring system is simply a way for Mr. Morrison to get to the top candidates. Just because you are the highest scoring does not mean you get the position. That allows Mr. Morrison to bring those top candidates in, interview them, and be able to see who he feels is the best fit for that position. The person that has the values and the missions that align with those of the City of Allgood. If you come in there and you don't have those values and that mission in mind, he's not going to hire you. Doesn't matter what your score is. And again, it is simply a scoring system. You have an issue with the scoring system, communicate that to your city administrator. I don't think that that scoring system is set in stone. I'm sure if you went to him and you said, we would like to have experience score higher than education, he'd take that into consideration. I don't think that the scoring system is the problem here. Second thing that I want to address is I want to bring a little bit of humanization into this ordinance. And with that, I want to address Mr. Hill's concerns that he brought up at the last meeting. It's when they come up and with how it would affect candidates when they come up in a public meeting and have to be voted on. He wanted to know how that it would affect them. You don't have to look far for that answer. You can look right there to Mr. Bradshaw and ask him how he felt in a public meeting to be rejected for the position that he was more than competent and qualified for. Ask him what it did to his confidence, knowing that none of you had his back. The confidence knowing that he was not your first choice. He was not your choice at all. Ask him how it felt to be in the newspaper. Ask him how it felt to go back to work to the guys. Ask him how it felt to be around his peers, knowing that he had been publicly rejected. This is small town. Municipalities know what every other municipality is doing. What if he wants to look for another job in the city of Cookeville? Well, they all know he was rejected on first choice. Are they going to want to hire him? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe because he wasn't hired here, put a little thought in their head, why wasn't he hired? Was he not qualified? Why wasn't he hired? He was recommended, vetted, by Mr. Morrison, the person that has the knowledge, the skills that are needed for the hiring process. You don't know what is needed in those positions. You don't know what Mr. Morrison needs for his team to work together for the benefit of the city of Allgood. You want to know what it feels like? You want to know what those repercussions are? Ask Mr. Bradshaw. I find it alarming and very upsetting that you would go against what your city manager, it's a slap in your city manager's face, this ordinance, to say, we don't have confidence in you. We don't have confidence in your abilities and skills for the hiring process. I find it just as alarming that you go against your city's legal representation. Your city attorney is telling you this is not in the best interest of the city. This ordinance is not in the best interest of the city. The best interest of the city is that he wants to work, choose the people that he has vetted, that he wants to work with, that he can work with, that are qualified and competent for the positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, okay. Come ahead, Mr. Williams.
Roger Williams. It's all boils down to who doing the right thing. And everybody here has had some good ideas tonight. I was on the school board for 12 or so years. I was there when we had elected officials making decisions, and I was there when we had the director of schools making decisions. When they were elected, it took 2 years to pay everybody back, 2 years to get elected again. And I'm not saying that politics is that way. That's just the nature of the beast. And once we got the director of schools in, did it the right way, we hired somebody to interview 5 or 6, 7 or 8 people. Then they brought those 3 back, and we picked the 3. Well, one of the 3, when we picked that one, we were putting our name on him, and he was the one that was supposed to do we were doing the budgeting, we were doing the positions. If they needed another policeman, they needed another work, we decided on that. But he was in charge of picking out who it was. Same thing in the military. The officers make the plans. Find a first sergeant, you put him in charge, and he takes over. That's just good. It's just good thinking. And I think sometimes it's how it's perceived. And the more you can get politics out of politics and how it's perceived, nobody may not even have a dog in the hunt and don't care. But if it looks like it's shady, that's how it's perceived. And I think we should stay with the way you've got it. If it's not broke, don't break it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, the next gentleman.
Hello, I'm Chris Randolph. I work for Public Works Department down there, and I've been there 5 years. The first few years was a little rough. Keith has probably been one of the best bosses I've ever had at the top. He's understanding. He looks out for his employees, the people that work underneath him. I couldn't ask for a better city manager to work for. I was in I'm obviously not in it anymore. But I honestly think we have a good group of individuals that lead the city And I don't want to see that change. I've worked several different places, and I've worked for good bosses, and I've worked for terrible bosses, and I've had to endure through some terrible bosses. And right now I've got some good bosses, and I really want them to stay, and I really want to stick around because I'm invested in the city of Allgood. I've grown up here my whole life, and I want to see the city succeed. And Keith Morrison wants to see the city succeed. And Walt Bradshaw wants to see the city succeed. And so does Roy Phipps. And so does the chief. Everybody wants to see the city succeed. And I just, is this the answer? Is this ordinance the answer? Is this what is in the best interest of the city of Allgood and the taxpayers that live here? I don't know. That's for you to decide. My opinion is it's not. There are a lot other things that we could be looking at, and a lot more things that we could be changing and moving forward in that would benefit the people of Allgood more than this right here. We're finally getting around to talking about the park. It's been sitting there for a year. We ain't done nothing with it. It's not been put in the budget. It wasn't put in the budget last year to make any advances on that park. I have 3 kids, okay? I've lived here my whole life. My kids go to Cookeville to go do their stuff. They go to play sports over there. We take them over there for recreational things, and we shouldn't have to do that. We should have something to do here in Allgood, and we have the opportunity to do it. Look at the ballparks over there. That's pitiful. When I grew up, I played ball over there. My kids should be playing ball over there now, but they're not because they can't. Look at it. I've got a 6-year-old that I have to take to practice at 7:30 at night because there's nowhere else to go but Cane Creek. And it's not right. It shouldn't be like that. And the city can budget money in for that. And Roy Phipps got his hands tied behind his back. He can't do nothing because he don't have the budget to do it. And the only one that makes those decisions are the ones sitting up there. I want to see the city grow and succeed for everybody. Our youth means more than the retired, and I hate to say that, but they're the future. And if we don't do stuff for them, what are they going to have? Well, I feel like if we keep going down this road, it won't be the city of Allgood much longer. It'll be the city of Cookeville. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Mr. Lane.
I'd like to say something. First time I ever met Keith Morrison, he fired me. First time I ever met him, he fired me. And you know why? He was ordered to by the mayor. Keith and I didn't know one another.
I started to say, can we clarify that I was not the mayor?
You was not the
Thank
mayor. You was not the mayor. Absolutely not. And you've been a great mayor. My point being, he was ordered to by the mayor. He was brand new. He didn't know from one end to the other what was going on. Running a city is not like building a Swiss watch. There's some wobble. There's some things going to go wrong. But I'm going to tell you this. I've worked for 3 different cities for years, and 20-something years. This city is run really, really well. It is run. He has done a great job. He's a good guy. Even if he did fire me, he's a good guy. But back to what's going to happen here. It's going to kill the morale of your people. I don't think anybody intends to do that. I don't know what you've been told. This is going to kill your morale. Could cause some people to leave. These kind of people aren't looking for jobs. The cities are looking for them. And if this creates a big issue and a big storm and a bunch of these folks quit let me tell you what happens. When stuff like this happens, people from other cities contact them and try to hire them. They see an opportunity. Keith's the one that's got to work with these people. You guys make policy, and he follows it. If he don't do that, you fire Keith. You don't do the hiring, the everyday hiring. He's got to deal with everybody himself. That ought to be his call. If he's got to deal with them, it ought to be his call to be able to have the right to hire them and fire them. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Mr. Lane. I don't know who could top that, but is there anybody else that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Have a code, people to do things. And some people just don't care, they just do it. And when you tell your people at the city about it, they say, oh, well.
Okay.
For instance, I have a person that lives behind me.
Okay, sir, I'm going to interrupt you at this point because this public hearing portion that we're having here, this is strictly about ordinance 707 -24. There'll be a portion later in the meeting where you can tell us about codes and that kind of thing.
All
I
right.
don't want to cut you off. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying
that's all right.
this is strictly related to this proposed ordinance. Okay. Is there anybody else regarding this ordinance? All right, not hearing anything else, then I will close the public hearing section and we will resume the council meeting.
I guess I'd like to respond to a lot of things I've just heard. There seems to be a lack of context in a lot of the statements I've heard. There is no attempt to discredit or do anything to Mr. Morrison. His job is great. He does a fantastic job. We all know that. But part of the issue that came up that have precipitated this started way back when Walt was hired as the Public Works Director. The City Council was under the impression that we had a vote. We came prepared to a council meeting to vote. We were told at that council meeting that we couldn't vote, that wasn't our job. But I disagree with that because I think the charter says we do have that power. And I talked to Danny. Danny don't agree with me on this, I know that. But Danny said that was a recommendation that night. So we had some confusion about whether we could vote or whether we couldn't vote. The bottom line is that Walt was getting the job. All he had to do was wait 1 month to get everything settled down. Now, I'm not sure what all of the comments were tying in that to an investigation that's going on in this city that has nothing to do with anything on this ordinance. No relationship at all. They're two separate issues. We're not taking anything away from Keith. Keith's job is still to do what he has been doing, to get applications, to review them, to get a ranking system, whatever ranking system he chooses to select, which happens to be asking, or all I'm asking in this. And all we're asking, or all I'm asking in this is when you get to the final recommendation, is give the council a chance to ratify it. Now, I know that Putnam County did that with their fire department. It's a different context because Randy Porter is the county mayor. I understand that. But at least those people were given an opportunity to vote. We don't get that opportunity. Walt had no problem getting the vote. The council was not trying to throw him out or do anything. He would have been voted in contrary to what you folks are saying. Now, you can smile about it as long as you want to, but you had the job to start with. And I told you that. In this very room, I said, be patient till next month. Now, I want to move on to something else. There's another comment made asking us how many people had dealings with personnel. I ran my own company for 20 years. I had a lot of experience with personnel. I hired people. I fired people. My company today has been sold, and it is prospering based on the foundation that I put in 20 years to build it on. So I have a tremendous amount of personnel experience. And y'all pat yourself on the back there. You brought it up. That's the answer. I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else sitting up here, but I do have that experience. And I think this ordinance is all coming out of one thing, is giving this council the opportunity to ratify basically what Keith brings to us. Now, after the last council meeting, somebody from the radio station come up and says, what about that ordinance that you're proposing that you can fire people? It has nothing to do with firing anybody. There is not the word firing or terminating is not written anywhere in this. It only gives the council an opportunity essentially to endorse what Keith brings to us. I think in response to another person that it was disturbing to me that the ranking system was so close for David. I'm in favor of David. I wanted David to have that job. David lives in Allgood. David loves Allgood. He has a passion for Allgood. But the ranking systems don't care about your passion. They care about, do you have a college degree, or have you done this, or have you done that? David's qualified. He's been here for years working for us. He keeps us safe. And I would have liked to have had the opportunity to say, yeah, I endorse you, David. I want you to be the fire chief. I didn't have that opportunity. We want that councilman or this council lady, a council person. We want that opportunity, and I feel like personally that as being an elected council person, that what's happening is you're trying to tie our hands behind our back and say, no, you can't participate. You can't do your job because we as a city say you can't. Now, I'm going to go back to one more thing. Keith's duties are laid out. I think there's 8 or 9 of them in the municipal code that says Keith's job is this, 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 and this. And go down 8 different items. At some point in time, somebody put that together, and it got approved. But just because it was put together and got approved 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, or 20 years ago, I don't know when, doesn't mean that it can't be tweaked. Everything can be tweaked. You can tweak the municipal code through ordinances. You can tweak the the policies through ordinances or resolutions or whatever it need to be, and that's what Danny guides us on. Now, I know he don't agree with me on this, but I'm fighting for the people who voted for me, and like the gentleman said earlier, if you don't agree with that, vote against me if I run again. Of course, I'm about so old I can't get around, so don't worry too much, but anyhow, you have a right to put the person you want to on the council. Now, almost everybody has had a chance to say what they wanted to say, and all kinds of things have popped up, like the park and this and that, and we have lots of needs. And we as a council know we have those needs. We made a step a couple of years ago to put the walkway and start a playground and put a parking lot in the park land. Most of you don't know how much that started out to cost and what it ended up. It almost doubled in price because that's all wetland. And everything you do over there is going to cost a fortune. That's why we're looking at maybe putting a dog park over there. But all of this stuff gets away from the context of what does this ordinance say or do. This is not any effort to take anything away from Keith. This is an effort to be a partner with Keith. All we're asking is him to give us a chance to ratify what he's suggesting. Now, I can't say what happens in the future, and you can't either. But this council as a whole has worked very effectively for the last 3.5 years. We've made a lot of decisions. We've put in Big Mac Drive. We've put in a farmer's market. We put in a shot down. You can house coming. We got an oil change place coming. We got a pizza shop down. You can go through the list of about 20 things that have been accomplished in the last 3 to 4 years under the direction of Keith. We have stood back and supported him. All I'm asking to do in this ordinance is give us an opportunity as a council to do what we were elected to do. Now, if you don't want anybody to do what you're elected to do, why don't you just vote to abolish the council and the mayor? Just become self-governing and do what you want to do. Or, as Mr. McDonald recommended, run for council or run for mayor. You'd be welcome. I have no ill feelings toward Keith, and I've told Keith a number of times I would never, ever vote for him to lose his job. I think the world of Keith. And I will support him as long as I'm on the council and able to support him. And I was supporting him before I got on the council. I walked to that mic just like you folks did and supported Keith when some other people were trying to get rid of him. Now, that's my story. Dry mouth, and I still got a bottle of water. But most of the things I've heard tonight have been very scattered, and they include everything to how sorry the city's doing on ballparks. I agree. We need better ballparks. We need dog parks. We need better tennis courts. Where do we get the money? We depend on Keith to make recommendations. We try to get him a budget that allows him to do what we can do and still stay within context of our tax. Our tax base hadn't changed our basic tax hasn't changed in several years now. People like that, but they don't like the fact that we can't buy everything. So, again, back to the ordinance, it has one purpose. Give the council an opportunity to ratify. And you may be surprised. Sometimes things pop up that a council member might know something that's very valuable to be put into the equation. I don't think anybody up here got elected because they're dumb. I think most everybody up here can think pretty well for themselves. And forget the fact that if you think I'm a politician, I'm an engineer. I have no political ambitions at all. Never have. But I understand a whole lot of what goes on in the town, and I understand the history of the town, where it used to be. But I've made my speech, and I am going to make a motion to approve this ordinance. I still think it's the right thing to do.
And I think that what a lot of folks have said is that it's, if it's not broke, you don't need to fix it. And I appreciate the fact that we have one person taking care of our directors and hiring a team that works well with him and for him. I do not want that responsibility. I do not want to second guess any person that Mr. Morrison holds out as being worthy of a directorship. That is not something I want. That's not something I've ever asked the city of Allgood for. And I guess a little bit for my background anyway, I don't know in the last 6 years that I've been here, and by the way, Mr. McDonald, I'm term limited out, so you don't have to worry about voting or not voting for me. So that's done, okay? And if I move out of the city, it'll be quicker than that. So, that we have been advised by our city attorney that it's not broken, and that if you take this action, if you change this ordinance, you open yourself up to all kinds of potential problems and all kinds of other litigation. And I think if you followed what's happened in the last few years, we've had enough litigation to last us a lifetime. We don't need that. And we certainly don't need people recommending things for, who are not familiar with the labor laws as it pertains to a town or to any hiring agency. We pay Mr. Rader lots of good money to advise us, and if the city wants to just pitch that money away and don't take the advice, then, that's on the people. But I'm here to tell you that I don't support it, never have supported it. I think the council's got exactly the authority that it needs to have, and I stand behind it 100%, and I'm not going to go against what someone we pay to advise us on things, and he says don't do it, you're going to get in trouble, but yet we've got some who just insist on, poking the bear. So Mr. Graves wants to continue with his motion, and so I'll put him down as to be seconded and voted on.
Second.
All right, Ms. Hawkins, second. All right, Ms. Walker.
Mayor Fowler,
No.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Graves,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
All right. Now we have item number 6. This is to consider approval of first reading of ordinance 708-24 to amend the fiscal year 23-24 budget. And I've seen the figures on that. But I'll let you address that if you want to.
I can. So this is an amendment to the budget that we currently have. There are a couple of changes that result in a net change of 0, so we're taking money in and putting money out, so those are just showing them in and out. The first one is miscellaneous revenue for a PD vehicle that was damaged for $17,000. Also increasing the general fund ARP for the Big Mac Drive closeout by $38,300. We are also increasing expenses relative to those revenue increases for a PD vehicle repair of $17,000 and an admin ARP expense for the closeout of Big Mac Drive of $38,300. So those are a net change to the general fund of $0, just money in and money out. Next, there's a decrease in the general fund balance of $121,000, so this is hitting fund balance. This is an increase in admin legal services for $5,000, an increase to Parks capital outlay for an additional vehicle that the council voted to purchase of $40,000, and 2 additional PD vehicles that the council voted to purchase in the amount of $76,000. So again, that is a net reduction of $121,000 in the general fund. In the admin regular salaries, we are decreasing by $30,000, and in the admin retirement, decreasing by $2,600. Those are for items where we placed to hire the fire chief, and we have actually added those lines to the fire department so that we can keep track of those there. So what we're going to do is move that funding out of admin into the fire pay and the fire retirement in the same amounts of $30,000 and $2,600. So that's a net change of $0, as we're just moving funds from one place to the other.
Any questions? All right. This again would be first reading of ordinance 708-24. It will have to have a motion and a second and be passed, and then there would be a second reading at next month's meeting.
I make the motion.
Mr. Bilbrey, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hawkins. Now Ms. Walker.
Mayor Fowler. Honorable Graves.
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 7 is to consider approval to purchase credit card readers from LGC and transition to Citizen from LGC. So that is an admin
Yes.
suggestion. So,
So
I'll let
what
you
we're doing
explain.
is currently we have BIS credit cards and BIS for online payments, and we upload the information to BIS, and customers are able to pay online through that service, or they can pay in City Hall for a 2.75% fee on their credit card. Those items are an outside source. Once they come in, the ladies downstairs in the office have to credit those to accounts and apply them and create packets and do all of those kinds of things. With our upgraded software, LGC has a in-house communication system called Citizen, and they will accept credit card payments and online payments. It will reduce the customer fee from 2.75% to 2.5%. And it will also open up an option for our online customers to do what's called e-check, and that's a flat $1 fee, which is actually a better deal for the customers than paying by credit card. The other thing that this is going to do is this will be directly connected to our database, so as they pay, it will update live, and they will be able to see their record update, and they can look at previous information and be able to review their accounts, and it will give our customers more access to their information than they've had before. It doesn't cost us any additional money to switch to Citizen. It does cost us $993.75 for a one-time fee to upgrade our credit card readers to work with this software, and it is all fully integrated with our local government software that we currently use. So this will provide us with better account maintenance and access for our citizens, and it will also save them money in the long run if they want to pay by credit card or online.
Any questions by the council? I'll go ahead and make the motion that we change the credit card system, anything in favor of the public. So I'll make. Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions before we vote? All right, Ms. Walker.
Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey.
Yes.
Honorable Graves.
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
The administrator, you kind of told us.
We did. So City Hall will be closed to customers on March 21st and 22nd. We'll actually be here working. The ladies in the front office will be working on the software transition. Customer information will not be available. Payments will not be available, and we will not be able to enter work orders. However, if a customer has an emergency or a water leak, we will still be running normal services. Trash will run. There will be somebody here to answer the phone. So if you need something, you can call. We just won't have access to our database to get customer information or take payments during these 2 days. And then once we get to, I think this is a Thursday and a Friday, once we get to that next Monday, we will be live on the new system. So we will ask for your patience as the ladies in the front office are learning the new software, but we think this is going to be a positive for everybody once it's up and running. Department heads, do you have anything?
We'll have our Easter event April the 6th. That'll be here at City Hall from 11 to 1, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. That's going to be sponsored by First National Bank of Tennessee, helping us out. We really appreciate them. And the Quilt Festival is April the 5th and 6th as well, the annual Quilt Festival.
I'd like to get the word out on May 22nd. We are hosting a seminar on retail theft. It's going to be involving the loss prevention personnel from area stores, law enforcement, District Attorney General's office, but I also want to invite the All Good Business Alliance. They're also welcome to attend. It's going to start at 9 o'clock here in this room. We are bringing in a speaker that is a loss prevention specialist with the Knoxville Police Department to provide that information. And the other thing is on April 9th, we will be hosting a advanced DUI investigation school here. Yeah, David, you need that.
I'm no idiot. I knew what was going on, so I called it. But just to let you all know, this will be my last council meeting. Okay? I am stepping down as your Public Works Director. We've already discussed this. I'm going back to my regular position. It's already open. I've done signed my papers. And good luck.
Mr. Brad. Mr. Bradshaw. Chief Judd, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that real quickly, we still have the Get Alarmed initiative going on, giving out smoke detectors. You can call the fire department, and I'll set up a time to get with you. We had 6 members of 6 firefighters recently pass state commission test. They range from hazmat awareness, hazmat operations, and pumper driver operator. We also, so far this year, the firefighters for All Good have a combined total of 450 hours of training. So,
thank you, sir. There any other department heads that need to say anything? Okay. Now we have a hearing of citizens or delegations. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Yes, sir. Now, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. It's your turn right now.
There's an individual that lives behind me that has stuff that's not under city code. He's went past city code, and he's done things himself, which I don't know if it's city code or not. And I'd like for you people to check it out.
Okay. Are you referring to a building issue or
property?
a property issue. So
Yes, things on somebody else's property that I've been told can't go as far as the property line, but he has additions onto his shed that goes to a property line.
okay, and that would probably come under codes enforcement, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, and can you supply us with the address of what you're wanting considered?
160 Elm. And he's also put a water line trench himself hooked to a concrete tubing underneath his drive. And what I've been told, because I was going to do that at one time, is that my concrete one has to be replaced and put all tubing, not just add to it. And that's why mine ain't done, because
Well, I appreciate.
it goes on my property.
Okay, well, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and we'll certainly
And
look into it.
He's also built things in his yard without building permits. Which, what is a building code? They're just telling you whether it's right or wrong. But I know he's only done one under building code, and he built a bigger patio and an addition on his patio without any kind of inspection.
Okay,
And I would have brought this up a lot sooner, but I've been in the care of taking care of my mother, who is now deceased, and this is what I'm doing now.
okay. Well, you have my sympathy, and
Well, she wanted to
we
be with
will.
my dad now, so that's where she's at. So,
Oh, that's my mom's with my dad too. That's what
so that's
I
what That's why I'm
understand.
trying to come to more city meetings to find out what we can do about these issues. And
Okay.
um,
Thank you, sir. We'll look into it.
Okay, I know I did last time I was here. I issued about the person laying rocks along the road where people were knocking them over and they were unsafe. He did move them back maybe 6 inches, 7 inches away from the road now.
Okay.
So, I mean, if as long as people ain't knocking them over and ruining their own vehicle, or even me, I'm on an electric scooter, me hit it and get hurt, that's fine and dandy. But it
Well,
was,
no,
they
we
did,
don't want-
they did
We
move
don't
it.
want anybody to get hurt.
No, and I'm
So
not in no
we'll-
good condition to get hurt.
All
So,
right.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything further? This would be the time. Okay, not hearing anything. I will call for a motion to adjourn and want to remind everybody that our next meeting will be April the 9th. I'll make the motion to adjourn. And Ms. Hawkins is seconded, and I think any of the four of us will object to adjournment. All right. We thank you all for your attendance, and we'll be back on April the 9th.